Let's stitch the pieced filler blocks of our Star-Spangled Beauty ladder quilt. The pieced filler blocks are on page 38. All of the fabrics have been backed with fusible interfacing, and I have the batting. These blocks will be pieced in the hoop, and then the background quilting will be stitched on top. Let's start the pieced filler blocks. For the pieced filler blocks, I'm going to be using my 5x7 hoop, and I am going to be doing just one at a time from my machine instead of using software. I will choose embroidery and go to my USB. And normally we bring in the background quilting first. However, with this block, we need to bring in the template. So I will open my embroidery files folder, and I need to find the template for the pieced blocks. I will select and hit set. I am going to go ahead and change my hoop size right now. I'll change it to my 5x7. And now I need to go to add, back to my USB, and now go to the quilting bundle folder. The first one I'm going to do is the Stars 12. And I need the 2x6 vertical. So if I look here, there's a 2x6 and a 2x6. On my machine, I can't, see the rest of the name, but I always know that the vertical comes second. So I will select this second, and I will hit set. And before I hit embroidery, I need to do one more thing. I don't need to do one more thing, but I am going to do one more thing, and let me show you why. So when we stitch this block out, again, you can see it comes in vertical, and we're going to start placing the fabric at the bottom and work up with our 3 fabric pieces. So if you look on the book, this is what the block, and we'll start with A, B, and C. Now over here you can see for the block we're working on, it's, kind of backwards, but of course remember this will be turned like that. So we will place the star fabric and then work our way up. But I want to note that if you turn this over and look at the block, this is how it will be placed in the quilt. Again, you could turn it upside down, but if you wanted this plaid on the left like it shows in the sample, you can see that these hearts are upside down. And that's because when we put the fabric, right now these hearts are facing to the right. And so if we start with our red and end up on top with this blue and red, and then we take this block and we flip it 90 degrees, these hearts are upside down. Now, is that really that big of a deal? Probably not. You probably wouldn't be able to tell. However, I'm stitching it out, and so I know that they're upside down. So in order to stitch in the same direction as far as the print of fabric goes, I'm going to make one change. So I just brought the background quilting in, so that is selected. So I'm going to go to edit and rotate, and I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees. So I will rotate once 90 and then once 90. So now when I start with this star fabric, and at the top I end up with this blue fabric, which I want on the left, again like the picture, this whole piece will be rotated and those hearts will be right facing. So again, that's completely not needed. It's something I can change right now while I'm at my machine, so I'm going to choose to do that. So I will select OK. I am now going to hit embroidery, and I will come to this minus plus needle, and then I think I am going to go ahead first and go to layout and move and just bump it down. It's not very far, but again, that's what I do. So I'll go back to the minus plus needle and we're ready to stitch out the template. I stitched out the template and you can see there's 3 squares and then it's the larger rectangle, which is the placement for the fabric. And so I have my batting cut to size. I have a little bit of spray adhesive on the back. I'm just going to place it onto that inner rectangle. And now our first step is to place fabric A, and we're working from the bottom and working backwards from this picture. So fabric A is this white with red stars. Again, you could do it in any order. You don't have to do it in this order. And so I will make sure that it's just covering this first stitch up here and then all of the other lines. When I do place it, I am placing the wider piece like this. This is a 3" by 3.5" So I want the 3.5" wide to go across. Now the next step is the tack down. This line that it just stitched is the trimming and placement line. So the first thing I'm going to do is just trim the fabric. Then I'm going to take my second piece of fabric. I'll put a little spray adhesive on the back. But I will put this face down and I will line it and center it up along this stitching line that just stitched. Now I will flip this and finger press or press it, and because I have a little bit of the temporary adhesive, I think I'm going to be okay. So I will just make sure that that's creased and flat, and then it will tack down and do our next tack down and placement for the next piece. Now I need to trim this. I'll spray the back of the third fabric, but I will place it face down. I will center it and put it right on that stitching line. Now you don't have to spray that first because right now it's just the, temporary adhesive face up. So you could do that later. I don't really like to do it in my hoop, but whichever way. And then I kind of just hold this down so it doesn't move. Now I need to flip this, and I will finger press it again. You could take this to your iron if you really want to get it down. Now the next step is going to put that rectangle, that's this outside line, it's going to go right over that, and it's going to tack all that fabric down. So our pieced part of the block is done. We've got, of course, everything pieced and it's tacked down. And I want you to see the next step, which is showing a big rectangle. So now we are coming to the background quilting. And remember, the first step of the background quilting is the placement for the batting. We've already done that, so we need to use our down arrow and skip this. The second is the tack down of the batting. We don't need that. The third is the placement for the fabric. We already have our fabric placed, so we can skip that. The fourth step is the tack down of the fabric, and again, we've already done that, so I will skip that. So we've skipped the first 4 steps of the background quilting, and now we will do the quilting. So I've taken this out of my hoop, and I just want to show you the difference between the sample, which you can see this heart is upside down. Again, not really a big deal, but just using the features on my machine, I was able to rotate that block. So now I have the same layout, and this cute little heart is right side up. All right, let's start the second one. I've hooped my muslin. You can see I still have the strip going to the top. This is the top of my hoop, and I've left this attached, again, just to save on stabilizer. You'll see how close these two will be versus, all that. Again, something that's totally not necessary. So I'm done embroidering. I'm going to go to home. I'll cancel that, and I'll go to embroidery and to my USB. I'm going to go ahead and put my hoop back on. And I need, again, to go to the embroidery files first. I need to find that pieced template, which is right here. Hit set. And go to add. Back to my USB, and now to the quilting bundle. And this one uses the plaid 5. And I need the 2x6. And I will hit set. There's no need to do anything with rotating this because it's just a plaid design. I'll select embroidery, and I will go to layout move and bump it down and to the -+ needle because we're going to be skipping those same steps. So the first thing again is the template. So the block has been done, and so now I'm getting ready to do the quilting. Again, I need to skip those first 4 steps of the background quilting because we only need the quilting. So I will use my down arrow and skip 4 of the steps and get it to where I have the first step of the quilting. Now this plaid is the 2-tone plaid, and I am going to run the first with the same color. It's the pearl that's in there. And in the book, it said the second color to use is the Magic Mint. I think that's going to look too similar, so I am going to try the darker sea green. I don't know if it will be dark enough to, again, show off that 2-tone quilting, but that's what I'm going to do. So let's get this first part stitched out. So I really like that sea green. I'm glad I changed to it. Here is that Magic Mint, and I think if you look, it just wouldn't have shown up as good. I can really tell with the pearl and the sea green. I love it. So let's get these blocks pressed and cut to size. This block needs to measure 2.5 inches tall by 6.5 inches wide. There is not an orange pop ruler that is that size, so I will just use a regular ruler. Before I cut, I am going to just measure to see how close we are with this tack down of the fabric. So if I measure the width of the block, it's just a hair shorter. So if I put my ruler when I cut just to the outside, I'll be great. It'd be 6.5. And for the height, it's right on at 2.5. So this is good to cut. So what I'm going to do is line up the top of my ruler just again to just to the outside of this basting. I'll line up my 2.5 with this left side basting and make sure to follow that line all the way down so that I'm straight. And then I can cut along this side. And I've lined it to the top so I can cut 2 before I have to move my ruler. So now I'm going to flip this. So I need to measure the 2.5 inch with the cut line that I just made and make sure that runs even all the way down. And then I need to line up the 6.5 with the cut line that I made on the bottom. That needs to go up just a little bit. So I have 2.5. It's straight all the way down, and then I'm lined up at the bottom with my 6.5. So now I can cut again the side and the top. So there is my cute little block. Let's do the same thing with the next one. Now this width of this block was a little bit short, about 1/8 of an inch. So I cut the first 2 sides, so I have the 2.5 inch height of the block. And so now I'm just going to come in and double check before I cut the width. So I'm going to go over to the left of this, tack down, and it'll be a little bit over on this side. So what I'll first do is cut one side just a hair over, and I'll go ahead and line up a mark across the top so I know that it's straight. And then I will just come to the outside of that basting. And now I can put the 6.5 down at the bottom that I just cut. I'll put the 2.5 to make sure that it's straight, which it should, you know, line up with what I cut just a second ago. And then I will cut just to the outside of that.